Sometimes, you come to Thailand for just a couple of weeks, to relax, reset, forget everything for a while. And then suddenly, you realize you don't want to leave. Everything before this moment starts to feel like someone else's life. This story isn't about bars. It's not about adventures. It's about a man who tried to run from his past and ended up finding something real. About fear, trust, and the quiet kind of love that doesn't shout, but stays. Stick around till the end. Maybe you'll see a part of your own story in it. And if these kinds of stories speak to you, subscribe to the channel. Here on Lost in Thailand, we don't tell fairy tales. We tell the truth about what really happens to men like you and me. It all started with a television commercial. One of those glossy travel ads, the kind you normally skip or ignore. But this one caught me. Golden beaches, monks walking through morning mist, tuk-tuks weaving through chaos, and the soft voiceover. Thailand, the land of smiles, where every day feels like a new beginning. I don't know why it hit me the way it did. Maybe because I was sitting alone in my flat with a lukewarm cup of tea, watching some generic evening news program, wondering where my life had gone. That moment stayed with me. Something clicked, and that night, I typed "retiring in Thailand" into Google. That's when the rabbit hole opened. At first, it was just curiosity. But I quickly found myself buried in forums places where men like me talked openly, even painfully, about their lives in Thailand. The tone varied wildly. Some painted it as heaven, others as a beautiful lie. But one post stuck out to me like a flare in the dark. A guy, mid-60s, wrote a long account of how he sold everything, moved to a small village in Isan, built a house with his Thai wife, and now spent his days drinking coffee on the porch, listening to the birds, and feeling more alive than ever. He said he'd never felt so free. He described the quiet, the slowness, the smile of his wife when she handed him a bowl of rice. It didn't sound flashy. It sounded real. I must have read that post 10 times. After that night, everything changed. Work started feeling heavier, my flat colder. Even the food I used to enjoy just tasted dull. I wasn't depressed, not yet. But something inside me had woken up. That spark, that one damn television commercial, had pulled back the curtain, and now I couldn't stop imagining a different life. I started spending evenings browsing Thai visa forums, watching expat YouTubers walk through noisy Swa in Pattaya and Chiang Mai. I read stories of guys building lives from scratch, marrying younger women, living like kings on pensions that wouldn't get them a one-bed flat in Croydon. The more I read, the more it made sense. I just turned 55, the house was paid off, and I had some savings tucked away. My pension wasn't massive, but in Thailand, it could go far. I learned about the retirement visa, found out that if I kept 800,000 baht in a Thai bank account, or proved a steady monthly income, I could stay there long term, no need to work. No questions asked. It sounded almost too good to be true. But I didn't just want a holiday. I didn't want to waste my best remaining years waiting for weekends to pass and counting down to nothing. I wanted a life. So I booked a 2-week fact-finding trip to Thailand. Just to see, I told myself. To feel it out. No commitments. I landed in Bangkok, in the middle of April, just as the heat was reaching its boiling point. The airport was chaos. The humidity, like a wet towel slapped across your face. But it didn't matter. From the moment I stepped out of that terminal and saw the city lights glowing in the distance, something inside me whispered, "You're home." Bangkok hit me like a fever dream. It was noisy, messy, alive, in a way that made my quiet little town back home feel like a hospice. The air smelled like grilled meat, engine fumes, incense, and something I couldn't quite place, maybe freedom. I stayed in a modest hotel near Sukhumvit, nothing fancy, but it had aircon and a view of the skyline that lit up like Vegas every night. I was jet-lagged, sweaty, and way out of my element, but I was smiling like a fool. The first night I wandered into a random bar, just to see what the fuss was about. Within minutes I was surrounded by smiles, laughter, women calling me handsome, like they meant it. I ordered a beer, and the girl next to me leaned in and said, "Welcome to Thailand, sexy man." It sounds ridiculous now, but in that moment, it felt like I'd stumbled into some alternate dimension where I mattered again, where I wasn't just the invisible postman with worn shoes and nobody waiting at home. The next few days were a blur of exploration, street food that burned and healed at the same time, conversations with other travelers and long-term expats who spoke about life in Thailand like it was a religion, and the women god, the women. Beautiful, soft-spoken, attentive, in a way Western women hadn't been for decades. But it wasn't until I took the bus down to Pattaya that everything changed. Pattaya was something else. It wasn't just a city, it was a spell. Bright lights, beach breeze, music thumping from every direction, and bars, endless bars. You couldn't walk 10 meters without someone smiling at you, calling you over, offering you a drink, a laugh, or more. I spent a week there that felt like I'd finally started living. Every night brought new faces, new stories. Every morning I'd sit at the edge of the hotel pool, feet in the water, watching the sun rise and thinking, how can I go back after this? After a week in Pattaya, I thought I'd seen it all. But the deeper I looked, the more I realized how little I actually understood. That friendly expat at the bar, the one who could drink 2 Chang beers, before I finished one, he took a liking to me and started filling in the blanks. That's when I first heard the real language of the city. Go-go bars weren't just flashy places with music and overpriced drinks. They were theaters. Stages where girls danced in numbered bikinis, each with a silent price tag attached. Short-time bars were more efficient. No dancing, no games. Just a room upstairs, a handshake, a price, and a door that clicks shut behind you. And then there were the so-called massage shops, lit in soft pinks or eerie blues, where the menu wasn't printed, but whispered. If you knew the right code words, or looked like you had enough cash, doors would open. Literally, and otherwise. He even pointed out the places nicknamed pump stations by the older crowd. I laughed at the term. He didn't. That's all they are for some guys, he said. They come here broken. They leave drained. Spirit, soul, and bank account. I asked him, and you? He looked at me for a moment and said, I came here to feel something. And sometimes, even if it's fake, it still feels real enough to keep you going. That stuck with me. Thing is, none of it scared me off. Not the transactional nature of it. Not the warnings. Not even the stories of guys losing their pensions to pretty smiles. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't invisible. I mattered. Back home, I was just another aging man. In Pattaya, I was someone. Desired. Noticed. Spoken to with warmth. Even if I had to pay for it. The question wasn't, should I come back? It was, how soon can I return and never leave again? Flying back home after 2 weeks in Thailand felt like being kicked out of heaven and dropped into a gray waiting room. Everything felt off. The weather, the people, the silence. Even the taste of food seemed dull. I tried to slip back into routine morning walks, the same tea, the same armchair in the evening, but something had changed, and it wasn't going away. I knew I'd found what I'd been missing all these years. It wasn't just the sun, or the food, or the women. It was the feeling that life could still surprise me, that I hadn't reached the end of the road just yet. I lasted a month before the depression crept in. I stopped watching television, stopped going out. All I did was read, forum after forum, post after post. I researched visas, specifically the retirement extension based on age. I learned the process inside and out. 800,000 baht in a Thai bank, or monthly proof of income, health insurance, TM30s, 90-day reports. I studied every detail like it was scripture. Then came the hard part, numbers. I calculated how much I could get if I sold my house, my car, all my furniture, and the rest of the junk I'd collected over a lifetime. The total wasn't huge by UK standards, but in Thai baht it was enough. Enough to live comfortably for 10 years, if I kept things simple. Not lavish, but not poor either. A 1-bedroom condo with a pool, 3 restaurant meals a week, drinks now and then, and maybe a girlfriend if I found someone genuine. It was a gamble, sure, but so was staying here, and slowly rotting. I made the decision one quiet morning, staring out the window at the rain hitting the glass. I stood up, poured my tea down the sink, and said out loud, I'm done. 3 weeks later, the house was on the market. I handed in my notice at work with no backup plan. When they asked why, I said, I'm going to Thailand. They laughed, until they realized I was serious. Then they just looked confused. But I didn't care anymore. I booked my one-way ticket, got my non-immigrant O visa, transferred the required money to a Thai bank, and then I waited each day, both thrilling and terrifying. What I didn't realize then was that the easy part was already over. The flight to Bangkok felt different this time. Not rushed, not exciting in the touristy way, more like a homecoming. The kind of deep breath you take before jumping into cold water. I wasn't on vacation anymore. I was about to start my new life. The hotel I checked into was the same one I'd stayed at during my first trip. Familiar lobby, familiar smiles at reception. But this time, as I looked out the window over the skyline, I whispered to myself, "This is it. You did it." The next few days were a blur. I walked the soys, ate too much, drank too much, laughed like I hadn't in years. I was free. No alarms, no gray skies, no one telling me what to do. I didn't even care that I was sweating through my shirt before noon each day. It was part of it now. A small price for freedom. After 3 days in Bangkok, I headed to Pattaya. My heart started racing again as the bus rolled past familiar landmarks. The neon signs, the smell of grilled meat, the sound of bass spilling from open doors, it all came flooding back. Like I'd only left yesterday. I gave myself a full week to go wild before getting serious. I bar hopped, met people, even bumped into a few familiar faces, and for the second time in my life, I had the best week I'd ever lived. But I knew better now. Knew I couldn't live like that every day. I started looking for a place to rent. Found a one-bedroom condo, not far from Soi Buakau. Pool, gym, clean, quiet at night. It felt like mine the moment I stepped in. And then came the next thought. A dangerous one, but one that felt completely logical at the time. If I find the right girl, I won't need the bars anymore. That's what I told myself. I wasn't looking for love. I was looking for sustainability. Company. Routine. Someone to shop with, cook with, sleep next to. And deep down, I think I also wanted someone who would make me feel like this wasn't just a late life escape. Like it could still mean something. I knew the stories. I'd read the warnings. Don't meet bar girls. But then again, where else was I supposed to meet anyone in Pattaya? Her name was Orn. She was 40, a good 15 years younger than me, but I never felt the difference when I was with her. She wasn't one of those girls always glued to their phones, chasing Wi-Fi and compliments. There was something grounded about her. Something real. We met in a small roadside eatery on the other side of the railroad tracks. I'd gone there just to grab a meal. I was tired of bars, tired of loud music, tired of girls with empty eyes and recycled lines. Orn worked there. Not as a waitress, just helping out in the kitchen. She brought me chicken and rice, and didn't say a word. But when I thanked her in Thai, she gave me the smallest smile. And it was the most genuine smile I'd seen in months. The next day, I went back. Then again. At first, we just nodded at each other. Then came a few words. Slowly. No flirting, no games. I liked the way she spoke soft, deliberate, like every word mattered. One day, I asked if she wanted to have coffee. She thought about it, then said, "I bring fruit." And that's how it started. She didn't move in right away. Everything happened gently. First, a toothbrush. Then a few things in the closet. Then, one day, her old pink hairbrush appeared in the bathroom and never left. I didn't mind. I actually liked it. For the first time in years, there was someone in the kitchen in the morning, humming without melody while making eggs. I tried to help, but she'd wave me off. "You sit. I do." She never asked for money. Never hinted at gifts. She had a small job of her own, and even when we went shopping, she always picked modest things. Never reached for anything expensive. When we went to restaurants, I paid. Not because I had Tobit, because it felt natural. She was comfortable around me, and I was more than comfortable with her. We lived quietly. No big events. We watched cheap dramas, went to the market, talked about how much mangoes cost in udon. And each day, I felt something inside me settle. Like some restless noise in my chest was finally fading. I didn't know if it was love, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't alone. It wasn't what I'd imagined. Not a young beauty with a fake smile. Not passion, not drama. It was something far better. It was peace. Orn and I had been living together for almost a year. Life had become something I never even dared to dream of, calm, predictable, warm. I started to feel like I had a home. Not just an apartment, but a home, in the truest sense of the word. But of course, that's when the doubt creeps in. Right when everything finally feels safe. I'd heard too many stories. Seen men lose everything just because they trusted the wrong woman. Those stories were like poison. They started dripping into my thoughts slowly, quietly, persistently. Orn would sometimes message someone on her phone. She didn't hide it, but she never really explained either. She'd go out for errands to the market, a friend's house, a salon. It all looked normal. But inside me, a shadow was waking up. And then, one day, everything lined up. She left in a hurry to buy groceries, and accidentally left her phone on the couch. I noticed it almost immediately, stared at it for 5 minutes, like it was a bomb. Then I picked it up. Opened line. No password. There was a chat with someone, the name written in Thai. I copied part of the conversation and dropped it into Google Translate. The translation was rough. Broken fragments like, "I love him, but he seems sad. I hope he's not afraid of me. I don't want to lose." The grammar was messy, the sentences incomplete, but the meaning was clear. She was talking to her sister, sharing her thoughts about me. Worried, nervous. There wasn't a single word about money, not a hint of a second life. That's when something sharp tightened in my chest. Shame and guilt. I'd built a cage for myself, not because of anything she'd done, but because I was waiting for betrayal. When Orn came back with mangoes and a can of tea, I was sitting there like a man, waiting for a verdict. "You forgot your phone," I said. I looked. She froze. Didn't say anything for a second. Then calmly placed the bags on the table. "You don't trust me?" "I had doubts," I said. "I'm sorry. Not because you did anything wrong, but because I'm scared. Still scared. Those stories, they don't let go." She looked at me, steady and soft. "I'm not angry," she said. "I know many women here do bad things, but if you don't trust me, things will break. Not suddenly, not in a fight, just slowly, cracks." I nodded. "I know. I want to trust. I need to learn how." She stepped closer. "Then, let's learn together." And in that moment, I realized I'd almost destroyed the best thing I'd ever had, because of the ghosts of other men's mistakes. A few more months passed. One evening, Orn said, "You know, my friend's cafe is closing. It's a small place, but there's a kitchen. Rent's cheap." I raised an eyebrow. "You thinking of taking it?" She shrugged. "We could try. Breakfast, coffee, fried rice with egg. Simple, nothing fancy." I paused, then said, "Let's do it." Because in that moment, I realized, for the first time in years, I had someone to build with. We rented the cafe, a tiny place past the railway tracks, tucked between old shops and quiet houses. I helped however I could. Bought supplies, fixed stools, mopped floors. She cooked. We hung a little wooden sign by the door. Good food, no Wi-Fi. The first month was rough. But then, slowly, locals started showing up. Some came for the coffee, others for her signature fried rice. Orn always smiled, not for tips, but because she was where she belonged. We bought an old Honda Jazz. Not a dream car, but it ran. I learned how to reverse park. She learned how to argue about directions. One night, as we locked up the cafe, I looked at her and said, "You know, sometimes I think, if I had flown home that last day in Pattaya, I would have lost all this." She didn't say anything. just wrapped her arms around my waist and rested her head on my shoulder. It wasn't paradise. It wasn't a second youth. It wasn't magic. It was life. The kind that begins when you stop chasing dreams and start building something real, brick by brick, with the person who stands beside you. Sometimes I still catch myself thinking, surely this won't last. Like happiness is something you rent, and any day now the owner might knock and take it all away. But day after day, it doesn't end. Orn and I don't talk much about the future. We just live. The cafe runs. There are always eggs in the fridge. Sometimes she brings home mangoes and laughs at how I still can't pick ripe ones. I've changed. Not overnight. Not just because I met the one, but because I stopped running, stopped waiting for the trap, stopped believing that every Thai woman is the same, or that all relationships here are fake. That's nonsense. They're as different as we are. You just have to stay long enough to see the real person behind the mask. And if you're reading this somewhere far away, sitting alone with a beer, wondering if you should take that flight, I won't give you advice. I'll just say this. Not all stories end badly. Sometimes, you just have to be in the right place, at the right time, and be willing to trust just a little. And then, just stay. If you know what this story was really about, subscribe. Here on Lost in Thailand, we don't sugarcoat. We tell it how it is. What happens to men when they come to Thailand and choose to stay? It's not just stories. It's what might happen to you, too. Don't miss the next one. Hit subscribe